Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to another episode of Transmissions with AJ. Somewhat of a different layout as to what I've done in previous years, 2020 onwards. A lot of people have been following my work since then. Followed the old podcast, the AJRobertsshow, where I was literally interviewing people from all around the world, showing people obviously what was going on in different countries, but a lot of the stuff to do with the fakery and the illusions and obviously the corruption that we've witnessed and been basically belt fed most of our lives. But along that journey, I met the amazing Matt Bell, actually on a protest down in Bournemouth, and our relationship just grew from there. And I've actually had Matt on the podcast several times. Matt's joined our awesome community on loads of calls. So I was really keen. Now I've started this basically 2.0 podcast. Let's call it the rebirth of Transmissions with AJ. I thought no better person to get on right now with everything that's going on in the mad world than my good friend and an amazing mentor to me over the last probably 4 years now, Mr. Matt Bell.
Thank you very
Thank you for
much.
joining me, bro.
Thank you. It's a
So let's
pleasure.
get straight into it, mate. Question one: what star system are you from, for the benefit of the viewers and the listeners?
Currently, this one.
Yeah,
Yeah, just this one. I decided to hang around this one for a while.
fair enough. Fair enough. Obviously, we'll get a bit more of that. For the benefit of the viewers and listeners who've never seen Matt before, Matt resides down in Dorset, where I'm actually from, and I've spent many an afternoon in a field with a notebook and pen, like learning quantum physics, things to do with quantum leaping, star seed races, how to connect to star family, which I then showed hundreds and hundreds of people over the next following years. Um, so just for the benefit of the guys listening and tuning in, is like just give a real brief like overview of like how you came into understanding all of this and this divine wisdom. I know it started at an early age for you, and then subsequently connecting to star family and everything around that.
Yeah. Well. Basically, it started when I was about kind of 6, and I used to go to church with my granny. And we went to, I think it was Westminster Cathedral one time, and I found the services very boring. And I'd be kind of looking around the church, and I saw this stone plaques on the wall. And as I was looking at them, the mouths were moving and the heads were moving. And I was thinking, this is a bit weird because it's stone. So how come I can see them moving? And I couldn't hear any words, but it was like they were chatting to each other.
Hmm.
And I thought, this is weird. Anyway, I didn't say anything until after the service, and I said to my granny, I said, why are those people talking on the stone walls? And she was like, oh, he's got a gift. And I kind of like was like, oh God, I don't need this attention. So I kind of shut down. And then as I sort of grew up a bit older and stuff, I kept on having strange things, events happening. So as a teenager, I'd kind of be looking at the moon, and then this white orb would fly through my forehead and out, and I didn't feel a thing, but it was like that. I wasn't looking at the moon, I was looking at something else,
Hmm.
and it's just flown through me. And then later on, I had an encounter with what I call my star family, the homily, and I'm just kind of running to see a mate late at night, down to the tube. And as I turn the corner, there's this sort of tree on fire. And the first thing I'm thinking is, oh my goodness, there's a tree on fire and it's next to a nursery. I should really call the police or something. And then the flame just kind of trickled out and floated in midair above me about 20 feet. I wasn't scared or anything. I just thought that's a bit odd. The fire doesn't do that, just hover in midair. And then it turned into a cylinder, literally a geometric tube, solid tube. Well, I don't know whether it was solid or not, but it was cylindrical shape and it was on fire. So it was like kind of flaming cylinder. And then this kind of beam or feeling or wave or warmth went over the back of my head to the front. And I was kind of like curious. I was like, well, is this me deluded, or is this an actual thing in the real world that I'm seeing? And so I was curious, and the thing moved away, and I kind of, and then it moved around a corner, around by a house sort of roof. And then I kind of thought, oh, I can just go around that road and have a look, see if it's still there. And it was literally hovering above the sort of chimney flame or around behind the chimney flame. and then zipped off. And as it zipped off, it kind of said in my head, God's light shines eternally within. And then that unlocked like everything. It's like everything. I mean, you could see truths to things without all the BS. And so I started saying what I was seeing and experiencing. And of course, you know, people kind of like, nah, aliens aren't real. You know, you're deluded, da 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 da. You're crazy, all that sort of stuff. But then, sort of later on, I was. This is when I developed the Star Teachings protocol, which is just going out in the garden, having a cup of tea, looking at the stars. And then one time, I just waved at one and sent it love and said, "Thank you very much. You know, lovely to see you," and all that. And then I kind of carried on looking at it, and then it waved back, it wobbled back at me, and I was like, what? So then I tried that with a few other stars, and they all kind of wobbled back, and I was thinking there must be something to this. Either it's me again, you know, thinking, you know, something delusional, or it's an actual thing. So I started trying it with my friends and sort of invited them around and said, hey, you know, concentrate on that, on the star that sings to you or twinkles to you, and give it a wave and send it some love. And then my friends would be going, oh my God, it just moved. It just waved back at me. And so I knew then that it wasn't just me kind of being deluded or something. And then I started teaching that same technique to people, other people, and then more and more people. And then each time, you know, people would see a craft move or come across the sky, or power up and flash, or even kind of give like what I call a streaker, which is it looks like a shooting star, but it's different colors and it's a lot bigger, and they're in different directions. So that star family kind of giving you a fly past salute, and then kind of slewing plasma off the back of their craft. So then I decided kind of, well, people were saying you should do this as like in groups, and I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll give it a go. And then I did it down in Lymington in the New Forest with a bunch of people, and it was amazing because we had like, I don't know, 20 odd ships come in and just hang around above us, and just kind of like, you know, just want to hang out with the kind of open-minded people. And so it's just gone from there, really.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing, and like, you know, you taught me in a short space of time, and I had the privilege of, like, after a lot of events I was running and taking people outside on clear nights, and you know, in decent areas, and everyone had like crazy experiences. You know, it's great. I always remember going to York a few years ago, and did an event there and did some like powerful breath work at the end. So then obviously, because of the breath work, people's consciousness was raised like quite significantly. And then we all went outside because there was a cricket pitch out the front. And I said, I literally briefly explained it, and then within seconds there must have been about 6 or 7 shooting stars, right? All of them had like different tail colours. And so I was like, right, let's see what people's perception are here. And I just said to everyone, like, what colour did you see on the shooting stars? And all you hear is yellow, orange, green, blue, blah, blah, blah. So it just goes to show you, like, they were connecting with like certain like energy field within their system, you know, to that star family to have that experience, you know, like just as you taught me all those years ago. So you know, it's magical, right? And obviously I've done loads since, like, and you know, it's quite a really good send off when we do it in Portugal on our retreats, because it's always on the last night when, you know, people have like sat with the medicine and they've like had an amazing experience, and they've actually shed a lot of the old stuff, and they're just in a much higher vibration. You get everyone up on the roof, and it's just like shooting star central, you know. So yeah, it's absolutely, it's a magical. And I think the good thing I love about it is like, I understand my own journey, right? I've experienced it, same as you, and you know, there's people in our communities that have like experienced so many more. But it's the amount I'm seeing now on social media, people openly sharing their experiences. So we're seeing a massive increase of experiences around, you know, ET life, contacting dreams, people literally meditating and connecting to, you know, the higher strands of DNA and God source energy, and etc., right? We're seeing that increase in experiences rise like the frigging price of silver. So, you know,
Absolutely.
it's almost in line with it.
There's just so many positive things when when you kind of get past the fear programming that Hollywood and the movies have put into people about extraterrestrials. I'm not saying either, by the way, that ETs are all good, because just like I did a sketch. This is kind of like, I want to kind of bring people up to speed, and I really want people to understand where we are in the 2026, as humanity on planet Earth. So one of that is that you get good and bad aliens, just like you get good and bad humans. Yeah, so people say, "Are they all bad? Are they all good?" No, they're good and bad, just like you get humans. There's a mixed bag out there. So yeah, and I kind of, they've got a message actually. They've given me a message because I've been lucky enough to go on board craft and go to meetings since developing the protocol and stuff. So they're kind of like really invested in our sovereignty and being divine individuals, because that's what they are, a lot of them, and they're highly spiritually advanced. And so I've kind of got like a whole list of things that I can kind of reel off just to kind of bring people up to speed quickly, if that's all right.
No, crack on, mate.
Okay, so we've got all humans proceeded on planet Earth. Basically, what will happen is that you'll see archaeology and paleontology and all that going, finding humans going further and further and further back in time. The biggest kind of wave was about 400,000 years ago, but humans have been visiting Earth pretty much, for hundreds of thousands of years previously. So actually about 200,000 years previously. So Earth is a planet that's in a big sea, a big ocean of ether, of high frequency water. It's kind of like, and it is round as well.
Yeah.
So
it's because we talked about this before, just briefly. I don't want to interrupt, but about if it was objective, it would be more spheroid, wouldn't it? It would like a squished potato almost.
That's right. Yeah, a bleached spheroid.
Yeah, a bit like Boris Johnson laid on his side on the beach,
bulging at the sides.
Yeah. And this is obviously where the double psyop of like globe, marble Earth, and flat Earth, come in, because we say like as above so below. That is actually the case, because obviously it's the ether, which is the electromagnetic field, the toroidal field that surrounds it as an objective being, because it's a conscious being, right? And that's what locks us into this reality and gives us that gravity, so to speak. That's why there's two theories of gravity. It's not because
gravity is basically flow of information. All these all these scientists and physicists going on about they don't know what gravity is, but actually when you realize the whole universe is mind, source is mind, and it focuses down to a point which is in us, and we're kind of like colanders or sieves, and as we filter these frequencies coming in, that creates our own individual interface, our own individual consciousness. So how the quality of that individual consciousness comes into you is down to you, and down to your language that you use for yourself and for the way that you think of others and stuff like that. So it's fascinating because as well with gravity, you realize that an idea basically coalesces frequencies, and then those frequencies come together in an implosive force and then ignite. There's an experiment called Star in the Jar, which is basically that in a lab. They've recreated light in a bubble, basically, and that's what we are. Earth is light in a bubble. The bubble is around it is the atmosphere. That's what we are. We're beings of light in our own electromagnetic fields that we've got around us that are invisible. So when people kind of talk about the firmament and they think it's a dome, that's incorrect, because it's actually all the way around. It's a big sphere. It's a big kind of sphere around Earth, and that's the electromagnetic barrier. It's Birkeland currents basically go along that and then stream down into the poles, and the plasma ignites because they've got different ionic gases and stuff like that. So there's physics basically that proves that the Earth is round, and it's been disproved that the Earth is flat as well. And what's quite interesting now is that you're getting people who are using the physics, but then to twist it to make it fit in the flat Earth model. And my answer to that is basically, if you can take a photograph of half the circumference of the Earth, and then I'll say, yeah, fine, you've got, yeah, it's a flat Earth, but no one can take a photograph around a ball, basically, halfway around, you know. So there's the challenge to the flat earthers right there. And you've even got people like Stanley Kubrick saying, you know, I faked the moon landings because we can't get humans past the Van Allen radiation belt. So, you know, NASA is kind of doing this plausible denial where they're using two narratives. They say, yeah, we went to the moon, and then they show you all the kind of fake footage in the Neil Armstrong stuff. And then they don't tell you about the Freemasons landing on the moon using immersion technology from craft from ETs. And another one of those. So let's just go back a minute. Darwin basically has convinced people that humans evolved on planet Earth, and that's not correct. We've all been seeded here, and so most people see it from an Earth-centric perspective, and they see aliens as coming in to Earth, but we are actually aliens as well. You know, we're not native to this planet. That's why we've got different sleep cycles. You know, why we procreate. You know, we can anytime, and why we've kind of got you know, we're the most kind of dominant species on the planet in terms of number, not necessarily in terms of intelligence, because the Earth is actually was taken over by regressive ETs about 3,360 years ago at the time of Akhenaten. And so since then, it's all gone a bit pear-shaped, and they've been controlling the planet and human populations through the secret societies and then the proxy pretend governments that are now turning tyrannical and wanting your digital ID and wanting you to be a nice, happy matrix slave. So when people realize the sort of ET connection, the regressive ETs infiltrated human society and the secret societies, and then infiltrated the deep state, and then has now, you know, been controlling all the politicians and governments, major governments around the world. And not just one group as well. There's several groups of ETs here. There's positive and regressive on the planet, but they basically stay out of the human awareness, either by not being on the surface in public, or you do get ones that are humans, ETs, that look exactly like us, could walk past you in a pair of jeans and you'd think it's just another human. And that kind of reinforces the fact that we've all been seeded here. So when people realize that there's actually humans on I think we're up to about 450,000 colonies now out there. So when you realize that humans came to Earth, then it puts a different perspective on it, because then you can see more truths to that, because things like you work out that the Mayans, they laid out their cities in, you know, to do with the Pleiades star system. And they've always said that they've been Pleiadians, but you know, it answers things that archaeologists can't answer, which is why a whole civilization springs up and then suddenly disappears. It's because they got fed up with this planet and decided to go elsewhere. And it was the same for the Anunnaki as well. They were here a while ago, and then about 17,000 years ago, they said, hang on, we can't handle all these human alien hybrids. So they handed it over to another ET race called Callistus, who are humans looking. They're humans, the same DNA pretty much. And ever since, they've been trying to protect humanity from the regressives and maintain kind of, you know, a foothold on planet Earth. So we've got loads of kind of ETs coming and going. It's a bit like a shopping mall, you know. Some stay to to meet friends, some stay to eat, some stay to window shop, some, you know, for supplies. So it's pretty much, if you can imagine, Earth is like this service station on the way to other planets, or if you want to go through the white hole of the sun, that's like a kind of junction to the superhighway. So they all stop off on Earth, pick up some resources, and then either set up colonies or kind of just temporarily step off, pick up supplies, and then bugger off again. So that's the current situation on Earth, and all the governments know ETs exist because they've recovered craft, and actually ETs were here before governments were established. So they've known since dot. You know, the British government have got recovered craft, and actually they probably used to send it to America. Lots of different organizations or entities, or you could say countries, recover craft and bodies, and some of the bodies are still living. So, you know, that's where we are currently in 2026. We've got the governments pretending that they know nothing about ETs, but they've all been established, these governments, from ETs being here before them, before the governments even, you know, before modern society even was established. And they're all pretending that they don't know about them. But then again, you know, they're very good at recovering the evidence and covering it up. So people obviously don't have any evidence to say, that's, you know, genuine. But if you kind of like, for example, the Dogon tribe of Mali, West Africa, they were talking about the star system, Sirius star system, Sirius B, and they knew that it was a dense star. I mean, I think something like 3 teaspoons weighs about a ton there. So how would they know all those astronomical details? Sirius B, by the way, you can't see by the naked eye. It's about 9 light years away, I think. And how did they know the density of that star? It's because basically they say the Nomo turned up. It arrived one time, and a sort of an indentation of land filled up with water, and then the Nomo craft popped on the top, and out popped the Nomo, and they sacrificed one of their own, and all the elders and stuff are watching, were offered that sacrifice so that they could eat him, and he could be part of their DNA, and that actually went ahead. And I thought that was a lovely gesture, but a bit extreme. But you know, that's the sort of thing that various star families do, because they're very loving, very kind, you know, very generous, very, you know, they want to get along with other life forms, basically. So we've got where was I on the list? Earth is an island in a coral reef ocean of life, basically.
I've got a question on that, mate, just before you carry on.
Yeah,
touched on that. Someone's asked Claire, is it true that there is more land than we know of officially? Obviously, the way I see it, everything that's coming through about Greenland at the minute is just basically showing you that, like, that is kind of home sort of thing. If that makes sense. Obviously, a lot of technology there, but food there, Antarctica. Yeah, it's a big mothership there. Yeah,
200 miles wide.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why it's like it's homeland. It's not Greenland.
It was responsible for the last ice age, and they know about it as well. So that's, you know, I think they're after that pretty much. All the kind of.
Yeah, of course. We've talked about this for a good few years now, me and you, haven't we? About, like, you know, the tech that's actually in Greenland or the Arctic, and it's like we bang on about Antarctica, and why is there a treaty there and all this kind of stuff, and it fixes your eyes on Antarctica, but we've never been taught anything about Greenland in school. Like, no one ever talks about it. Isn't there any documentaries on it? It's actually not until recently, just like a lot of things, the populations have gone, oh shit, hang on a minute, Greenland's actually inhabited. Whoa. Like, do you know what I mean? So you can see, like, the programming on humanity to keep it outside of the consciousness, because it is very much attached to our internal home, obviously from the heart, right?
Yeah.
Home is where the heart is. Heart is earth.
Yeah.
Your heart is green, your green chakra.
And that's the middle of the spectrum as well. That's the heart
100%
color.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what this is all about. And that's why I was saying about, you know, it's so important for people to realize that like Trump is not a savior. Trump is not this or that. He's literally a character, like the bad guys. You got to have good and bad, right? The polarity. But that's what you come here to Earth to experience, the polarity and duality. You can't have this experience without it. And he's very much that just there as a disruptor being guided by external forces like galactics and everything else like that operate
Absolutely.
through Greenland, etc. So if you can just see that he's just a funnel to funnel like their protection on behalf of what we know as a normal everyday modality, government, politics, etc., etc. You know what I mean?
He's the agent of change. You know,
That's what it is. He's just an agent working on behalf of like much higher beings and higher influence for a positive, because of obviously, like you said earlier, the regressives and everything took over and actually infiltrated the deep state, Masonic realms, like all of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, the Freemasons, there's a lot of notoriously good Freemasons, but like what I'm saying, that, you know, another thing has been completely infiltrated.
Well, all the
Just
32 degrees
like,
and below, they all don't know what's going on above. If they
that's
did,
what I mean, and it's like, but again, we have to have that analogy, that duality, that polarity. You know what I mean? And that's why they use the terminology, the 33rd degree Freemason. But then in the consciousness, everyone's like every Freemason is a wrong un. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like actually, it's like like the same in every industry. The 33rd degree is just like the upper echelon, just like you get upper echelon in the military and the police and politics and government and everything else like that, and all of them are bent. Do you know what I mean? It's just like so across every industry, and they're just feeding off all those levels below. You know, it could be a 32 degree Freemason or a frigging sergeant major in the British Army. Do you know what I mean? They're still none the wiser, just being good little soldiers, right?
Absolutely.
Same as people in retail, same as people in banking, same as people in the medical industry. Like every single industry, you've got like
compartmentalized, you know, so that you don't know who's your master of your master, kind of thing. So and just to answer that question, these maps of kind of extra land beyond Antarctica is just made up. When you're in orbit, you see it is pretty much like the map of the Earth that we're used to. There is more land, but it's in the Earth. It's we've got an inner sea, and we've got a population that's 3 times bigger than the surface, actually, in the hollow, well, in the honeycomb Earth, I would put it. Not right. It's not exactly hollow. It's more honeycomb. And there's massive caverns down there, the size of continents, you know, with different star family and different kind of species down there. So
well, yeah, but it makes sense, doesn't it? Because there's so many sightings of like craft coming out of the water, and that, you know, you know, BBC scientists are always saying that, oh, we've only discovered 5% of the you know, the Earth's oceans and stuff like that. So it keeps people like in this, you know, in this box. Do you know what I mean? Like only the, you know, specific scientists that have got 20 years of experience and been to uni and got a student debt and all the other systems, right? That, you know, all in a collective, to go out and feed back what they want to. It's just keeping people busy, right?
yeah,
Same as people that go through virology. They go through the whole of school, college, uni, become a virologist, and all they do, they have to be told. Yeah, and they've got to be told by a computer that there's certain genomes to a virus, where the program in the computer is designed to keep creating variants that don't exist. Do you know what I mean? I saw it with my own eye. I saw it with my own eyes and put them down when I worked there after I was in the military. Like, so, you know,
that's another thing. You know, the military camps are by these alien bases, or by these ancient earthworks and megaliths and monoliths and stuff. So there is a reason why there's bases around certain ancient sites, and that's because basically they worked out that there are alien bases, and so you know, to keep an eye on them, let's set up a military base around it or next to it, sort of thing.
Yeah, but they do it everywhere, right? So I've done a lot of research on this myself, so we've had these conversations. But you know, if you look at Salisbury Plain, which basically stretches from just, you know, the other side of Salisbury all the way to Glastonbury, pretty much, you know, and obviously you've got a very powerful St. Michael ley line, I believe, goes through there, as well as many other ley lines. Then you've got in Salisbury itself, which is on a 33rd degree energy line that runs from Christchurch in the south all the way up through UK, funny enough, through Aberdeen, right next to Trump's golf course, and into the North Sea. you've got Salisbury's on that, which then links to so many others. Obviously, that's one of the reasons why it holds the Magna Carta in the cathedral. And but you also got Stonehenge there. You obviously got like other powerful ley lines, but then you've got Boscombe Down, which is literally UK's Area 51.
Yeah.
You know, run by the RAF. And then you got down the road Porton Down, which we know is obviously where they do a lot of chemical, biological testing, psychological testing, MK Ultra testing,
genetic manipulation and stuff.
Yeah, direct energy weapons. I saw it with my own eyes, like when they were testing lasers. Like, do you know what I mean? And so we've got all these things around these key ancient sites, right? That's designed to keep the military advanced, which basically is just it's to affect the nodes in the land, right?
To militarize them, to add
exactly,
aggression.
And this is why, so they have these super garrisons in all these key areas, like all around the UK, for that reason. But then obviously, you know, you've got the military side of it, but then you've also got, you mentioned about hybrid beings and stuff like that. You know, I've been adamant, and nothing hasn't changed my mind otherwise, that World War II was all about taking Germany, because Germany is the gateway to the magnetic north, and obviously UK was never going to be taken because it's actually the stronghold for the dark,
the satanic mills,
the satanic knobheads.
We're really good at churning out paedophiles, Satanists.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Woke people and kind of very messed up people.
100%. But it's like, if you take the gateway to the magnetic north, again, it's everything's been about taking the magnetic north because of the powerful beings there, right? You got all these Pleiadians and Nordic beings, right, that are just like highly advanced. And again, I've shown this on my social media. Vikings weren't just normal humans; they were higher dimensional beings, right? Basically, basically Pleiadians. They didn't row big long ships in the water that you could clearly see would never make it, right? That they would traveled on long advanced ships on the magnetic ley lines, and that's how they navigated. And this is why planes mimic it now, right? Because you notice how you don't get any fuel. There's not all the fuel that they say that goes into the wings, right? Which is all BS. It's like fucking 20. It's like 28 double-decker buses worth of fuel, right? Pounding against wings, because they only need it to take off the ground and they need it to land when they come down. Why do you think that is? Because the plane is attaching to connected to the ether and is just following the magnetic ley lines in the sky, as above, so below, right? It's just like, and again, that's our ancient technology being used in planes, and we sit there on a Ryanair flight, literally going through a portal, right? You go from port to port, airport, right? You don't actually know where you are, do you?
Yeah, you just see the clouds passing.
So you know we're on this long haul flights, but you've got a screen on showing you the map, haven't you?
Oh yeah, the little dot.
It's telling you you're here and here and here and here, but you don't know. And it's because you're literally, when you get on that plane in this 3D realm, you literally go through a portal and you're back in a 3D realm the other side when you come out the ether. It's literally that simple.
Star Family can also kind of change their craft to look like airplanes as well, with the same transponder details. So
yeah, you only got to look at the flight MH MC 174 or something like that.
Yeah.
Malaysian airline. I did a podcast on it with the guy who's done all the investigations on it, like probably about a year and a half ago now, maybe more. And obviously his investigations just grown and grown and grown, so is the what's been released. But yeah, going back to that lineage, right? So this is why, like, creating a fake war using ISIS in Syria in like 2011, 2012 was all designed to, like every war, to create mass exodus to the borders, who then flooded through Europe. And the whole plan was to flood Germany, flood Scandinavia, with a complete, different, there's nothing to do with the race, it's a complete ideology, right? Like extreme Islam, extreme Muslim in a Nordic region, or in a very Christian country like Germany.
Also, they found Gilgamesh's tomb basically in Iraq, and all the tablets that go with that. So, and because they know cuneiform, they can read all the ancient data. So that was like a massive haul for the cabal as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's all tactical, it's all around ancient sites. And then they had ISIS going around blowing up ancient sites all around, Damascus and places like that.
And they picked up the Stargate from under
exactly.
Gaddafi's palace
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. So again, it was a known Stargate, and again, this is why we went to Iraq, because of the Stargate in Basra, which is where the British occupied. Funny enough, you know, it's they found black goo, didn't they, off of the coast of the Falklands?
Yep.
Yeah,
Fuel
and
Island.
that's why they initially sent British Special Forces there to try and retrieve it, and that the RGs were just trying to protect it, and that's why it kicked off. So it wasn't to do with the RGs trying to take the islands; it was because they were trying to protect a dark AI consciousness, right?
That had been capped, that had been contained, you know, until the British came along.
Yeah, exactly. It's always the Brits, mate. But then if you take so then you flood Europe, especially Denmark, Sweden, with a completely different ideology, right? And you can go on any website, type in what's the rape capitals of Europe, and it's like Denmark and Sweden. So again, you're lowering the vibration of that population because you don't want them waking up to their lineage, right? And it's the same in the UK. All the East Coast where Vikings came to, like Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, you know, Newcastle, Scotland, like all these countries. If you actually look at all the towns and that, they've been absolutely battered. Like Cleethorpes, Grimsby, you know, and a lot of the people are very unhealthy, and it's
on
a bit
purpose.
all on purpose.
Yeah, it's all designed, you know. If you think about it, we're divine beings with the connection to source or God or whatever you want to call it. And that divine connection with all the processed food, with the stress, with the, you know, survival, you know, low paid work, shift work, you know, odd hours, both parents having to work so that the child is vulnerable. You know, all these things are designed basically to keep us in a limited perception and slave minds, to dependent on the state. And so, you know, people are wising up to that now, thankfully. And they're, like you say, you know, you don't follow Trump. I don't support Trump in the sense that I'm glad that he's doing what he's doing, but I don't support him as in he's my savior. One of the things ETs say is basically don't have anyone as his savior, believe in yourself, trust your own discernment, your own judgment, because more than half the problem is that people, you know, vote their next master to enslave them. You know, voting is a form of giving away your power to someone
absolutely.
you don't know, to personality, and you don't know how they got there. And most MPs got the job because they're compromised. So, you know, so yeah, don't really believe in idols or celebrities. Just believe in yourself, because then you're not drawn into the mess that person you believe in or believed in. So yeah,
the only confirmation you need on that is the fact that if you actually look at your timeline of your life, just how much shit you've been through to stop you believing in yourself, and then look at like, wow, that is a big bag of shit that's been thrown at me my entire life. Like, why?
God is the authority, the state
because you are that powerful. Do you know what I mean? It's because you are that powerful. It's all been about chipping away at your light. You know what I mean? Since you're a kid.
I mean, the stuff I'm getting from Star Family is like hardcore quantum physics, consciousness technology, and they're explaining how all that works, and all that's coming because actually we're moving out of the age of materialism and we're moving into the age of energy. And of course, in energy, there's frequency, vibration, there's electromagnetism, and all of that is involved in consciousness. And I'm trying to say to people, basically, the whole universe is mind. What you think is outer space is actually part of your inside of your body, and you're just like a focal point of where all these frequencies concentrate. And then you've got your own individual consciousness to kind of say, oh, I'm separate from the world and stuff. But no, you're not. We're all interrelated. We're all emergent from the field, the source field, united source field. So helping people to understand, one of the biggest psyops is the mind body spirit one, where they reversed it, because actually the flow of consciousness goes from source or the ether or the universe, and that's the sort of ocean that's constantly in flux, and then that sort of trickles down into your own individual kind of bowl of water, your own consciousness, and then within that you project your physical body. So when people realize the connection between the mind, because the body can't see the mind, but the mind can see the body. And there's also other experiments like the rubber arm. Do you know the rubber arm experiment?
Yeah.
Where you get someone to sit with their arm to the side, and they put a mirror, and then you dress up this rubber arm, basically, and then the person, you stroke the real hand or the real arm on the other side of the mirror, but you're also doing it on the rubber arm. And what happens is that your consciousness transfers to the rubber arm. So when they stick a pin in the rubber arm, you literally feel pain. So that shows that consciousness, all those signals, are not necessarily internal to the body. You interpret it as a point potential cloud, effectively, of consciousness. So they're working out basically that the flow is spirit, i.e. God, source, the ether, the fluctuating universe that trickles into the mind. The mind then, through its own individual forms of frequencies that it's filtered out of the rest, will then project whatever code, DNA code, that you're programming yourself. It's epigenetics, basically. They found that your consciousness programs your cells, and then your cells will react to your programming. And what they realize is basically your subconscious doesn't know the difference between an actual thing or a fake thing. So the more you can speak positive language to yourself and your cells, the more you'll be in better health. It's kind of on a deeper level. Love basically coalesces all frequencies. It brings it together, tightens it, creates life and light, and whereas hate basically destroys and relaxes and disintegrates DNA. So if you can have that.
I was going to say, I had this conversation last week, obviously, when I was visiting my old man, with his wife, and it was basically like along those lines, because I think the time I was down there, I heard the word worry. I really worry and frightened about 300 times, and it's just, you can see like that they just program themselves to say it at the start of a sentence. I'm so worried about it. I'm like, are you really? Or do you know what I mean?
Manifesting that.
Yeah, so you literally, they project that constantly, and as we know, like, you know, everything on your outside world is a reflection of your inside. So if you're voicing, I'm frightened that this is going to happen, you know, you're projecting things into the future, and that's actually a power of ours. You can literally you manifest that, right? So you literally, in a positive way, I do meditation all the time. You can literally put yourself in a future time pocket, and actually like see the detail and everything, like in a remote viewing format. Like every single person could do that. Again,
jumping,
but we can all do that like very easily. But again, it's our consciousness being used, weaponized against us. So it puts like the fear, then uses that skill, the same skill, to project a future event that's not, or hasn't even happened, but you've already put in the fear and, you know, other subsequent emotions into it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the esoteric teachings is basically your reaction has the ability to change the outcome of a situation. So getting people to pause before they respond is really important, because then you can see the quantum options that you've got in front of you in that pause, and you can generally choose the best response that doesn't cause more conflict, that's a bit more considered. So yeah, helping people understand that they're not black or white. They're actually both, but they're also neutral. So if you can see both the light and dark from that neutral perspective, then you're no longer being pulled into that duality. And giving people that understanding that there's a third option means that they can create their own paths. They can create that pathway. I kind of use the old analogy of you know, at school, when you've got a mate coming up to you going, would you rather do this or rather do that? And they got the answer to both of those, and whatever you say will be, you'll fall into their trap. And I'd really annoy them, because I'd be going, well, actually, what I'd do is I'd win the lottery, get the gold ticket, and dance off into the sunset with all my money. And they'd be like, no, you're going to answer one, A or B. And I'd be like, no, sorry, I'm not playing that game. So that's a perfect way in which, if you're presented with two options, you've you don't have to take either. You can make your own, forge your own third option, which doesn't draw you into those camp A or camp B, you know, into that conflict sort of thing.
Our good friend and one of our amazing facilitators, Vicky, just commented, we are resonators of energy. We can program our energy fields to vibrate love from your body cells into the ether. It's so beautiful once we align. And well, knowing Vicky very, very well, she's very connected, and the connected to the ether has been a big thing for her, you know, most recently, which is amazing. And yeah, she's I'm actually going to give Vicky a plug. Actually, Vicky's running a grounding and sun gazing. I'm not going to call it a program. Gathering month-long event for the whole of February. So please reach out to Vicky. She'll give you all the details on it. It's for anybody and everybody to get involved. All the people in our community are getting involved in it. It's just literally every single day, just getting out, grounding. You know, at some point when, you know, during the day when the sun does break through the fake weather,
chem clouds.
So, you know, to really focus on that as well. And like Vicky's running it, supporting everybody. So giving her a shout out now to, if you want to get involved in that, please contact Vicky Edwards, who's just commented on the screen there. Yeah, so I mean, moving forward, for me personally, like I've witnessed, you know, for my own internal experiences I've had over the last few months, which has been fucking mind blowing. But like, you know, I've only had a chance to speak to about 5% of them. But and the ones that everybody else is experiencing, you know, the rapid rate, you know, certainly in my reality, in our reality, you know, the people watching this, all part of my reality. You know, for me, we're only going to a very, very good and golden place, like very quickly. And I believe it's because, you know, like you're saying, we've all seeded here. Everyone's awakening to that, like, true, authentic self within them. You know, I'm very, very conscious of, like, at this point now, I've been sitting and thinking about a lot, talking to Corin about this a lot as well, just about, like, we don't need to feel into what we were or could have been and past life stuff, this, that, and the other. What I think is really important right now, that is it's a good part of the journey, to experience or have a dabble in, like, oh, what potential past lives you were evolved around. What's actually really important is that you don't get suckered into that, oh, I was this and I was this person and I was that person, because you're here watching this and listening to this right now in human form, having a human experience in this lifetime. What's actually really important is if we take those qualities and those, you know, the attributes and the truths and the rawness of that being, right, and then and use that in this life. So I could sit here and rattle off all the stuff I know about my past lives, you know, very military, you know, very Viking, all this kind of stuff. But actually, what's really important about that, yeah, it's cool. However, I know that me embodying that warrior spirit, me embodying those shamanic elements, me embodying the leadership, the fight, you know, against tyranny, time and time again. That's what's really important, and you know, and that's what I've focused on over the last few years. You know, so I think moving forward, knowing that we are seeded here, knowing that we are on a mission, you know, individually and collectively, we collectively wake up by doing the inner work, like raw inner work on yourself, beyond all the programs, beyond all the illusions. You know,
we're
for
the
some,
highest tech on the planet, you know.
we are, yeah. So you are the highest tech, and I've experienced that a lot recently. By it's almost creating like this, like a nuclear energy, like within my actual chest, you know, and it's and like anchoring it into the ground. But then going around Bournemouth Hospital, like knowing fully that I'm alchemizing energy, just walking around like with a big smile on my face. Well, a lot
I've
of
got
people
to teach you how to do smart light bombs. I'll show you that. That's a really good one.
I'll hold you to that. Exactly. You know, but we can do all this stuff, you know what I mean? And it's I was thinking about it today and really reflecting on the time sat around my dad's bedside when he just had a stroke.
How is
And
he?
I was he's making a remarkable recovery. Like, they're blown away at his actual recovery. They're literally just like, what the but on going there, and he really wasn't in a good way, to then leaving a few days later, and he was talking, start to play some chess with me, and I left him the Alchemist book by accident, and when I got it, I went to in the evening, he was reading it, sat up in a chair. So it's like, it's amazing what we can do with that, with our energy. Do you know what I mean? So moving forward,
Yeah.
people are really stepping into their gifts now. It can be confusing, and I think it needs to be reassuring for people that it is and can be confusing, because
Yeah.
it's not your
It's
norm
not
that you've
easy.
grown up.
Doing the inner work is not easy, because you have to hold a mirror up to yourself and kind of look at yourself coldly and objectively as much as you can,
Mm.
and then identify your triggers or the things that get you wound up, and look at your shadow self. You know, all the things that you kind of put in the dark back room that you don't want to look at and resolve, and also the kind of inner child stuff as well. A lot of where the adult is not friends with their inner child because it was a traumatic situation. So if people can kind of work on that, their inner child, their shadow work, and the triggers as well, then they're peeling off all those layers of stress, all those layers of conditioning, and then it's actually removing all of that to find the original divine blueprint that's there underneath. So when people like you and myself, we help people go through that process, that transition, a bit like a caterpillar. You know, you bring people's consciousness, they're curious and open-minded, and then they realize that they can transform themselves at any given time. And in that transition, it's difficult because it's kind of like the dark night of the soul. You have to kind of face truths and realize maybe you're not in the situation you wanted to be in.
Yeah,
But
often more than once.
yeah, but you can always change that up. You know, you change your patterns up and you get different patterns back and different frequencies and different opportunities. So, and you can do that anytime you want. You can transition into that holistic, divine, sovereign being, because that's what you are underneath all that conditioning and programming. So it's just a case of removing those and unlearning, so that you're blank canvas again, and starting with, you know, with more kind of open mind, seeing the dark and the light to things, because any given thing has a dark side and a light side. You know, money can be used for good things, but it can also be used for crime. A knife can be used for cooking and making meals and healing people, but it can also be used to stab people. So helping people to see things from different kind of perspectives or perceptions is another way that you can bring people out of that dualistic kind of way of looking at something. Either it's all bad or it's all good, sort of thing. So realizing that there's always a kind of positive and negative energy to things. And when I say negative, not necessarily bad or evil, it's just the polar aspect, the dual pole aspect of electromagnetism. So so it's helpful, all this consciousness technology helping people to develop their consciousnesses and find that inner light, because it reverses your actual magnetic field and starts bringing in light into your heart,
Yeah,
and then
100%.
that informs the mind, and then you get the heart mind coherence.
Yeah.
And the thing that I kind of, you get a lot of people kind of breaking up because there's a sort of frequency mismatch, and where one person will be waking up and the partner will be like fully asleep, and so there's a lot of kind of I call it frequency dissonance, where you're kind of having to say to people, you know, I never say split up, you know, but reevaluate your relationship and work with your partner if you can to you know, to discuss where you are, sort of thing. But we're seeing lots of people kind of breaking up and finding new relationships and stuff as part of that transition into the higher frequencies, into that
Well,
holistic, loving self kind of thing.
I'm one of
And
them.
yeah, well, you know, if and that's part of shaping your future. You are creating it in real time as you are conscious of those decisions. So if we can bring people into the now, the present, they can then take control of their lives. The thing about as well, also, star family say about time, there's three dimensions of time: past, present, future, and there's three dimensions of space: forward, back, up, down, side to side, basically. So star family say time is an illusion, because actually all of time is playing out all at the same time. So all these other people are aspects of yourself in different timelines, different being presented to you. But the one thing that they've fooled humans with is thinking that the now is this fleeting second that passes between the future and into the past. But actually, that's a false notion, because all that's happening is the now constantly. It's a constant moment, if you like, constant moments, and recognizing that you can shape your reality in the now present helps people to see time as not this kind of present as a fleeting second that they can't do anything about and they can't control. It helps people to actually understand that they're in the now constantly, and it's only the past doesn't exist. It's happened. It's gone. The future doesn't exist. It's yet to happen. So the people who are locked into the future get anxious and try and kind of fit things and control things as they come along, which is impossible to do. And people who are stuck in the past are lost in regret and sort of, nostalgia and stuff like that. But then either way, you're lost in no time because it doesn't exist. So helping people to understand that the present moment is all that exists. That's where all of life is. So that's another one of those things that Star Family say about Earth time, because actually they don't measure time in the same way on other planets. It's actually to do with the motions of the planet in relation to other planets, like a big clock kind of thing.
Yeah.
And our linear, our forms of clock is basically a way of syncing up all humans to have a collective agreement that this is what time is. But when you back to the spirit, mind, body, when you dream, you can dream of a chicken laying an egg and then that egg instantly turning into another chicken or going back to an egg. So time is an illusion, if you like, and it's just because the brain processes things in a kind of sequential way that we notice duration. And it's only when we notice a change in that thing that we're observing, we'll say things like, oh, it's died, or it's been born, or so but we reincarnate because we're eternal beings. So
it's such a fascinating subject, isn't it? Like when you really peel back all the
I
layers, it's
like
all night. Even when I was like spending time with, which is amazing. So while my dad's in hospital, I'm spending time with my stepmom, and like she's really starting to become aware and awaken to like mainstream medical system because she's witnessing it in real time. And I think like for her own experiences through COVID and stuff like that, she was asking me a lot of questions, more than ever, about holistic health. She was asking me loads of questions about the work I do with mushrooms, with cannabis oil, or raw cannabis products. Even asking me like, what does Cambo help with, and Eva was asking me about our ayahuasca retreats and stuff like that. So it's like, it just goes to show you that people need to sometimes go through these experiences themselves
to actually was the original,
to drag them through.
Yeah, I mean, it was the original connection to source. You'd have out of body experiences, you'd have weird sort of visual hallucinations, you'd get to meet higher beings that are very loving and divine, and you go through the portals, the upper portals of consciousness, to meet these lovely divine beings. So Star Family humans have done this for all throughout our civilizations, to connect with our inner source, because they knew that there was a lot more to life than the material world. And then I think most people are, in modern societies, are just stuck in the material world, and they don't realize that actually the material world is a product of spirit, of ether, of source. And so actually, all the things that are presented as light and visible are actually just energy bonds, basically, and your mind interprets them as physical 3D space sort of thing. So the new stuff that's coming through, well, not so much new, but maybe new to people, is that like the work of Matsuro Emoto on the labels, hate, love, on these jars with rice, and he got his students to shout the word or say the word nicely if it was love, sort of thing. And the actual rice fermented on the, I think it was on the good, the love jar, and then actually got mouldy on the hate jar. And then you've got people like, is it Vader Austin, who basically is doing water crystallography. So I'm getting to a point here. Basically, our conscious intention has an effect on the field. So it has literally an effect on reality. So if you look at a garden, say compare two gardens, you can see where someone's added love and where someone's neglected a garden.
Yeah.
That's a literal example of how we can affect the environment around us by our consciousness. And the work of Matsuro Emoto and Vader Austin showing that our conscious intention has an effect on the physical world, if you like. It's really important to know, because then you know yourself that you can affect the environment around you with just your vibes.
Yeah.
And each person has the possibility to bring up, I think it's 70,000 people, literally, just by, and half of them, most of them won't even know of you, but they'll just feel the vibe in around your field, around your
100%.
field.
Well, I mean, prime example, I did that exact thing, knowing exactly what I was doing in Bournemouth Hospital, literally walking around the corridors. Weirdly, I actually had a copy of The Alchemist in my hand, of course. But I knew exactly what I was doing. And I get asked a lot of people say to me, you know, like, I know my connection to like the grid and grid work and my fascination with maps and all this kind of stuff. You know, I'm probably going to do a few short podcasts like solo on it over the next few weeks, just explain my actual journey around this, and with plant medicine and stuff like that, because I think it's important for people to actually hear someone's proper perspective from it.
Yeah.
But going around the hospital, it was like I knew exactly what I was doing. And then that materialized into my dad's ward. He had amazing nurses. He had like really friendly people. Like everyone looked like they were totally into their job. Like the food he was even getting was like better than I've ever seen in a hospital. Like especially what my mum was getting before she died. You know, it was like this was coming into the actual physical, because it was like the vibe I was vibing at. Do you know what I mean? And that's how powerful this is. How powerful we are. And you know, I get asked a lot, like, oh, like, so how do you know if you're a grid worker or like everyone is? Like, you know, we're all eternal
Follow your
light
passions.
beings of source.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is, as long as you're vibing high and you're not literally buying into all the systems and plowing your body full of all their toxins, that's just affecting the channel that you can potentially be, you know. And that's why it's made so difficult for us, and why it's important to keep people fattened up and you know, like inflamed on the inside and stressed and just being hammered with EMF, so that it affects us being a solid channel to source, you know, and we don't light up that grid. And as soon as you do, you lift the grid. You know, that's why all our events, they're all on key ley lines, and why so many people purge at them and stuff like that is because we're lifting the grid and people are connecting to it. And that's what's making them suddenly purge like all old stuff, you know, whether it's tears or like literally in a bucket or whatever it is, because we're lifting the grid.
Yeah.
Because we're all grid workers, we're all light beings. You know, there's no hierarchy grid work out there. And if someone says to me, I'm a senior grid worker in the UK, tell them to jump off of Harry's rocks into the ocean. You know what I mean? Like,
tell them to walk around one of the squares.
Yeah. Tell us to walk around one of the grids and measure it out, put a board
The ley
around it.
lines are actually real energetic lines. You know, they star families say they're genuine. There's also ancient stuff I've seen that they've shown me, where they've documented all the energy lines around the earth. That was one of the first things actually they do. They map the whole planet. You know, for example, the pyramids. Let me get this little thing. Is it that one? No. Oh, it's that one. Basically, one of the pyramids has fallen off, but Star Family kind of know the Earth, because they made the pyramids. Each side is to the cardinal points, so each face faces the cardinal points.
Yeah.
So they've mapped out the whole planet. And some guy in Google did plot lines, and he plotted around the whole planet from the Nazca in Peru, and it matched up on the other side. Guess where? Angkor Wat. You know, that amazing kind of one of the I think it's the largest religious temple on earth. So all of these lines or energy lines are connected, and they've been mapped by Star Family. So yeah. And it's you know, if you can tap into them, these ley lines, like you say, you know, or push up all that kind of lower frequency stuff to the surface to be transmuted, to be cleared and released. And you know, the more people do that, actually, the cleaner those ley lines will be, because actually, with all that programming overlay, that tends to collectively, on the collective field, disrupt the ley lines. So it's important that people can go on these ley lines and get kind of like a cleansing, or purging all that kind of low frequency stuff out.
Well, people know as well, because, like, you know, like, for those of you watching and listening, have you ever had an experience where you've just gone somewhere and you suddenly started crying, you know, and then you don't know why, or suddenly you felt sick, like you just needed a release, got massive shivers down you, you know, loads of different ways,
Some
or
people
suddenly
literally
started to shake.
sort of jumped off the floor, you know.
Oh yeah.
Shock.
Yeah, that happened to my mate Ben. He literally got blown back by that. He was literally on his own in Scotland, like yomping around, and he's literally thrown backwards. But also, you know, if you're on a ley line or very near it, because, you know, you get a lot more ear ringing, you get a lot more spiritual downloads, and a lot more uploads as well, because you're literally on that, and, you know, it's like you're literally plugged in. And that's what this is all about. It's not just a war for our consciousness; it's a war on the grid lines, especially in the UK. And I've said so many times, you know, this land is the most powerful. It's why we have the most crop circles here, because obviously the crafts connect with the quartz
and
energy
the most
underneath.
evil, trying to suppress that.
Yeah, because it's like, and again, we've got so much lineage here as well: Celts, Druids, Viking, Scott, like all of it, right? They don't want people waking up to their lineages, because that's the warrior aspect in them all waking up, right? And they don't want warriors running around the lands of the UK. They need suppressed beings, who literally will do as they're told and happy to be controlled. And as we all know, right, you know, everyone's kind of woken up to that side of the illusion. But you know, there's some really great sites online where you can look at the major ley lines in the UK. Obviously, I'm actually doing a lot of mini courses on it, based on a lot of the experience and my own work that I've done, and especially around Lincoln Cathedral.
It's
you know,
fascinating. You know, those standing stones. A lot of them are like notes on a keyboard, so they're resonating at different frequencies. So along these ley lines, there are the nodes, the energy nodes, like Stonehenge, etc. And those were actually med beds. Those are healing centers and also religious centers, or spiritual centers. So if people can get into these sites, these ancient sites where the standing stones are, then that coalesces all frequencies into the center. So if you stand in the center of them, basically it's like being on a frequency generator that is infusing you with more frequencies. So they are kind of like med beds. The rollright stones are still working, but most of them are offline now. So, but yeah.
Well, Lincoln Cathedral's definitely working in the castle, because I made sure I fucking took it back, with the help of my sidekick Jane, who's also watching. That mother is ours. End of chat. But no, what's beautiful is there's so many groups out there. You know, those of you follow Joe and Kelly, who from Crystal War Experience, you know, they've set up an amazing grid workers group that I'm in as well. So I'm always monitoring that, and I see all the amazing work that people are like just consciously doing around the country, you know, regardless of what their day job is or stuff like this. And it's a fascinating subject, and I'm literally just recording some mini courses now, for our community, because we're literally putting mini courses in there for all our community members as part of being in the membership and that. So I'm doing a lot of little courses on ley lines, grid work, you know, how we actually create that powerful channel to, you know, to do that in the first place. You know, stuff on inner work, meditation, the breath work, you know, all little courses for all the members to get stuck into. Really important. That's why that's why we changed it and made it very much a conscious community, because, you know, we know that every single person in it is like a conscious person who's on a very developing journey, who needs that guidance and help, because they're at that stage now. It's not about just look over here, oh, you're still talking about digital ID and chemtrails and everything else like that, which is just looping. It's just part of your awakening. It's just things in your awakening. It's like, it's just matter that doesn't matter, because like as soon as you go within the heart, like we said, you know, that 0 point, like you're creating this new from here. So you don't need to pay any attention to stuff that's just literally just been a little bitchy threat, you know, like there's been many other things in the past which humanity's squashed, right? Everyone pretty much now is sort that needs to see past the bullshit of COVID, has seen
even
through
the psyops are a psyop, because they get you to that kind of thing, and then again you're entangled in that energy web.
And that's why there's people that continuously organize protests, because it just keeps people going to a town center which is plugged into the matrix. It's just surrounded by materialism, completely full to the brim with people there buying materials and all that kind of stuff, right? So they're screaming and shouting at what quote unquote NPCs, right, that don't hear them because they're not programmed to, and then they kick off because the big numbers weren't shown on the mainstream news, which is designed for the PCs to keep them programmed. It's not designed for, you know, conscious communities to like call them out or tell them the truth. It's there to keep the NPCs programs running on daily programs, right?
Absolutely.
That's literally what it's for. So it's, you know, there's people out there still to this day constantly just getting as many people to protest as possible, and it's just keeping you in a loop, exactly like the route that's walked is a loop.
It's keeping you people in reactive binary mode, you know. It's either good or it's either bad, and then your humans are divine random nodes basically, and the way that you can get them to be predictable, programmable, replicatable behaviors is by programming them with that duality, with those stories, so that then you program, they'll naturally react in a certain way, and they know how you're going to react because they're very good at gaining or manipulating public opinion. So, you know, coming out of that duality, you're stepping out of that entanglement as well, where you're being played emotionally and turned into a predictable node rather than a divine random node. So the more you can kind of question the narratives that you're being presented with, and say, why am I being presented with this, and what response do they want from me, the more you step out of that predictable programming, in which you become a predictable node, and your reactions are already predicted. So that will also help people find their divine natural spark, if they stop, kind of switch off mainstream media effectively, and start listening to their own inner calling and their own divine, their passions, and, you know, what they want to create, rather than having the external world demand them to do something. So yeah, it's really nice actually. My group, Positive Living Communities.org, they, you know, we help people who are moving into holistic lifestyle, and it's a really, you know, sacred space, supported people, new concepts and ideas, and then we all help each other out because everyone's got skills, talents, and knowledge, and you can cross-pollinate, and it's nice to see you're doing, you know, the same sort of thing where we're getting communities together, because this is the only answer to what's the tyranny that's out there at the moment, is creating loving communities, local communities, where everyone's helping each other out, and you're not party to that jurisdiction, that corrupt jurisdiction. So that's the way forward.
100%. It's so important, and this is why we've just built this whole new platform. You know, it still gives it a bit of a social media-esque environment, but it's completely away from ads, censorship, judgment, you know, negative comments.
You don't have digital ID. You don't have.
Yeah, but you do need to do your fingerprint and eye scan and send us your bank details. You know, for a membership. Slowly.
Underwear side.
Yeah. Matt, it's been amazing to have you on, mate. I'm very conscious of your time in that. I just got one question from someone. I'll just get it up on the screen. from JC, basically asking, are there any Sky Watch groups in the Hampshire Dorset area? She's in the New Forest, but obviously I know you're in Dorset and you've done a lot of stuff with the New Forest community.
Well, there's only, I mean, there's the connection protocol gatherings where we do the star, bringing the craft, and those are good gatherings. I don't know of any particular Skywatch group that's looking at the daytime sky. I know a lot of truthers are aware of that, and they're kind of analysing flights and patterns and the state of the weather. But I don't know of any particular groups in Dorset that do that. So,
but obviously your own,
apart from my own, which is the night sky kind of thing.
Yeah. And on that, where's best for people to reach you? Is it through your website?
Yeah, starteachingsprotocol.com. We've also got a Telegram Starseed group. And there's all star family data that they've been, and I share, loads of it because I want it all to go out there for free. And you just find what you're interested in, and smaller nuggets of information. So it's all there on the website and on the Telegram site, and it's loads of different subjects as well, about the technology they use in craft, about the types of beings. There's an ET database, and actually, just before we go, to the end of last year, we had the thing called the Bugosphere, BUGA, which is a drone by the Orion Greys that got short-circuited next to a pylon and got picked up by a human. That changes density, so that's, I think, in Mexico or Peru. It was found in Colombia, but that's an ET object, and then people are finding other drones, silver balls, basically, and then they're also recovering bodies now out of Mexico, a place called Thula. If people want to go to aliencarvings.com, my friend Mike Forrest, he's documenting all with scientific data and everything, all the artifacts coming out of Mexico, because there's a big volcano there, and about 43,000 years ago covered up the whole of that civilization was there, and it was an interstellar civilization. So we're getting loads of artifacts, really fascinating artifacts, where the light so they've got crystals basically that they'll put on a terminal on this artifact, and the crystal will light up. So they're free energy devices they're digging out of the ground, and there are all these sort of carvings and star maps on them, and Ankh symbols and stuff that you thought was Egyptian, but actually it's come from Orion to Egypt. So stuff like that's coming out. So that this year is going to be the big year where hopefully Trump makes an announcement, says they're real, and then people like me can just go, oh.
It's funny. It's funny how you're talking about Mexico and that then, and I was just like, literally, just like, oh, okay. It's interesting how the World Cup is in Canada, United States, and Mexico this year, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's the most.
It's American, isn't it?
Yeah,
well.
Yeah. Nothing's by accident, friends. Nothing's by accident. Awesome, bro. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure. I know everyone watching and listening could listen to this conversations for hours. So we'll definitely do more of them, because it's the information that people want and what people resonate with. Now, the people who are watching and listening to it it's for them. People who are watching Gogglebox and Love Island and that, like, religiously, it's not for them. They're not very much part of this reality and the shift that we're going through. So just know that if you're tuning into this, you are absolutely on the right path. Keep going. There's probably still a bit of shedding to do, but just sit with your emotions, do the inner work. I can't stress how important it is to really do the work on yourself. It's not selfish now.
It does get better, when you do all that work and you clear all that, you're like, inner peace.
Yes, you'll realize it's you time, and even the word time is an illusion in itself, right? Break the word down. Time, tie me. It ties you to the illusion, right? So take yourself out of that illusion and set some quantum time for yourself, where none of that matters, and you can really, really step into who you truly are, part of that mission that you're on. Connect to your higher strands of DNA in meditation, you know, don't live your life in the lower strands, because that's what all the people that are still trying to black pill people and living in the very 3D looping systems is because they're still stuck in their lower base like strands of DNA, you know, when there's much higher gears to shift through, as most of you will know and find out for yourself shortly.
Come into your heart space, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Come into your heart, because that's where you project everything from. So why wouldn't you? Thanks a lot, ladies and gents. Please, if you want to reach out to Matt, visit starteachingsprotocol.com. I've just put it onto the screen there. Look forward to another podcast next week with myself and Stephen J. Beatty. Amazing guy. We're going to go real deep into the real histories of the original Jerusalem, the actual original Israel, its connections to Scotland, the actual spine of the Albion, a lot of the actual stone circles and the carvings and what they actually mean. So this is going to be a really in-depth podcast with me and Stephen next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. But for me, AJ Roberts and Matt, thank you for joining another fantastic episode of Transmissions with AJ, and I'll see you all on the next episode. Much love, guys.
Cheers.